Jack, Emma and Max battle to save Eldrida. We publish a new bedtime read-along story every night, so make sure to tap the subscribe button so you never miss any. Chapter 1, The Mysterious Train. The sun was setting as Jack, Emma, and Max boarded the train at the station. They were on their way to visit their grandparents, and the train ride was supposed to be a fun adventure. Little did they know that it was going to be much more than that. As they settled into their seats, Jack noticed that the train car was different from the one he remembered. The seats were plush and comfortable, and the windows were round and large, giving them a perfect view of the passing countryside. But as the train started to move, things began to feel strange. The train was moving too fast, and the landscape outside the windows didn't look familiar at all. Emma looked at her siblings with concern, and Max's eyes grew wide with excitement. "Hey, where are we going?" Max asked, peering out the window. "I don't know," Jack replied, feeling a little uneasy. As the train chugged on, they noticed that there was no conductor or engineer driving the train. It was moving on its own, and the siblings were the only passengers on board. "Something's not right," Emma whispered to Jack. Just then, the train started to pick up speed, and the siblings felt themselves being pushed back into their seats. They looked out the window and saw that the landscape was changing rapidly. They were passing through mountains and valleys, and the sky was turning a deep shade of purple. "Where are we?" Max asked, looking around in wonder. "I don't know," Jack replied, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. As the train continued to speed through the unfamiliar landscape, Jack noticed a strange symbol on the door of their train car. It was a circular emblem with an intricate design, and it seemed to be glowing faintly. "Hey, look at this," Jack said, pointing to the symbol. "Do you think it means something?" Before anyone could answer, the train suddenly lurched to a stop, throwing the siblings forward in their seats. They looked out the window and saw that they had arrived at a train station. "Where are we?" Emma asked, still feeling a little dazed. "I don't know," Jack replied, as the train doors slowly opened. The siblings stepped out onto the platform, and as they did, the train suddenly vanished into thin air. They looked around in confusion, trying to figure out where they were. It was then that they noticed that the station was different from any they had ever seen before. The walls were made of stone, and the lamps were glowing with a soft, magical light. Strange creatures were milling about, and there was a sense of excitement in the air. "What is going on?" Max asked, looking around in amazement. "I don't know," Jack replied, feeling a little uneasy. As they stood there, a figure approached them. It was a tall, elegant woman with long, flowing hair and sparkling eyes. "Welcome to Eldrida," she said with a smile. "I have been expecting you." Chapter 2, Eldrida. The siblings looked at the elegant woman in confusion. "Expecting us?" Emma repeated. "Yes," the woman replied, her smile unwavering. "You have been brought here for a reason. Come, let me show you around." The siblings followed the woman through the strange station and out into a vibrant, magical land. They saw towering trees with leaves that glowed in the moonlight, and rivers that sparkled with a bright, enchanting light. The air was thick with the scent of flowers, and the creatures they passed by were unlike any they had ever seen. "Where are we?" Jack asked, still feeling disoriented. "You are in Eldrida," the woman replied. "A land of magic and wonder." As they walked, the woman explained to the siblings that Eldrida was a world under threat. It was ruled by a powerful sorceress who was determined to destroy the land and all of its magic. The woman was a part of a small group of rebels who were fighting against the sorceress's evil reign. "We need your help," the woman said, her tone serious. "You have been brought here to help us save Eldrida." The siblings were stunned. They had no idea what they could possibly do to help save a magical world, but they were willing to try. As they continued to walk, they saw that Eldrida was a land of contrasts. While some areas were filled with beauty and wonder, others were dark and ominous, with looming mountains and murky forests. The woman led them to a small village where they met other members of the rebel group. They saw that the villagers were living in fear of the sorceress and her minions, who would swoop in and take what they wanted at a moment's notice. "We need to stop her," the woman said, her eyes fierce. "But we can't do it alone. We need your help." The siblings looked at each other, unsure of what they could do to help. But as they looked around at the scared faces of the villagers, they knew that they had to try. "We'll help," Emma said, determination in her voice. "Good," the woman replied, a small smile on her lips. "But we must be careful. The sorceress has eyes and ears everywhere. We need to find a safe place to talk." The woman led them to a secret hideout deep in the forest, where they met the other members of the rebel group. They saw that the rebels were a diverse group, made up of humans, elves, and other magical creatures. "We need to find a way to defeat the sorceress," the woman said, her tone serious. "But we cannot do it without your help." The siblings looked at each other, understanding the gravity of the situation. They knew that they were in for the adventure of a lifetime, and that their actions could determine the fate of this magical world. Chapter 3, The Hunt for the Magic Crystal. The siblings woke up early the next morning, ready to embark on their quest to save Eldrida. They sat around a small table with the rebels, discussing their plan of attack. "We need to find the magic crystal," the woman said, her tone urgent. "It's the only thing that can defeat the sorceress and save Eldrida." "But where do we find it?" Jack asked. "That's the tricky part," the woman replied, a frown creasing her brow. "The crystal is hidden deep within the mountains, in a place that's almost impossible to find." "But we have to try," Emma said, determination in her voice. The rebels nodded in agreement, and they set out on their journey. They traveled through the lush forests and treacherous mountains, keeping a watchful eye out for the sorceress's minions. Days turned into weeks as they searched for the magic crystal. They faced many challenges, from dangerous creatures to treacherous terrain. But they refused to give up, knowing that the fate of Eldrida rested on their success. One day, they stumbled upon an ancient temple, hidden deep within the mountains. The temple was guarded by fierce warriors, but the rebels were determined to get inside. They fought their way through the warriors and found themselves in a large chamber, filled with magical artifacts and ancient relics. At the center of the chamber was a pedestal, and on the pedestal sat the magic crystal. The siblings gasped in awe as they approached the crystal. It was a stunning, glowing object, pulsing with magical energy. "We did it," Emma said, her voice filled with excitement. But their victory was short-lived. As they reached for the crystal, they heard a loud cackle behind them. They turned to see the sorceress standing in the doorway, her eyes blazing with fury. "You foolish rebels," she sneered. "Did you really think you could defeat me?" The sorceress raised her hands, and the rebels braced themselves for the worst. But just as she was about to strike, Emma leapt forward and grabbed the crystal. "Run!" she yelled to her siblings and the rebels. They fled the temple, pursued by the sorceress and her minions. They raced through the mountains, the crystal glowing in Emma's hands. Just when it seemed like they were about to be caught, they stumbled upon a hidden cave. They ducked inside, catching their breath as the sorceress's minions pounded on the entrance. They knew that they couldn't stay there for long. They had to find a way to use the magic crystal to defeat the sorceress and save Eldrida. But for now, they were safe, and they could rest, knowing that they had accomplished the first step in their quest. Chapter 4, The Final Battle. The siblings and the rebels knew they couldn't stay hidden in the cave forever. They had to face the sorceress and her minions, and defeat them once and for all. But they needed a plan. "We can't just charge in blindly," Jack said. "We need to be strategic about this." "I agree," the woman from the rebel group said. "We need to find the sorceress's weak spot and exploit it." They spent hours discussing different tactics, trying to come up with a plan that would give them the best chance of success. Finally, they settled on a plan. The next day, they emerged from the cave and made their way to the sorceress's fortress. They fought their way past her minions, using their combined skills and strength to overcome the obstacles in their path. As they approached the fortress, they saw the sorceress standing at the top of a tower, her eyes fixed on them. "You cannot defeat me," she called down to them. "I am too powerful." But the siblings and the rebels didn't back down. They continued their climb up the tower, determined to reach the sorceress and end her reign of terror. When they reached the top, they found the sorceress waiting for them, a wicked grin on her face. "You are too late," she sneered. "I have already unleashed the full power of the crystal." The siblings and the rebels looked around in horror as they saw the devastation caused by the sorceress's magic. The land was torn apart, buildings reduced to rubble, and the people of Eldrida were running for their lives. But they didn't lose hope. They knew that they had to fight until the end, no matter the odds. The sorceress launched her attack, using all of her power to try and defeat the siblings and the rebels. But they were ready. They used their newfound skills and the power of the magic crystal to fight back, their determination unwavering. For what felt like hours, they battled back and forth, until finally, the sorceress let out a scream of defeat. The magic crystal shattered, and the sorceress was defeated. The siblings and the rebels collapsed to the ground, exhausted but victorious. They had saved Eldrida from the sorceress's grasp and had proven themselves as true heroes. As they made their way back to the magic train that had brought them to Eldrida, they knew that they would never forget the adventure they had just experienced. They had made lifelong friends, discovered new strengths within themselves, and most importantly, had saved a whole land from certain doom. The end. Do you want to hear more stories? Then hit the subscribe button to follow our channel, so you never miss another daily story. And keep listening now, as more stories will play shortly.